Buddy here, as you can see, is a good-looking bird, has all of his feathers. Well, it wasn't always that way. When he came here, he didn't have most of the feathers on his wings, his chest was completely bare, and he was an unhappy bird. Why is this? It's this evil thing humans have called breeders. And if you expect me to say something good about breeders, you're not going to hear it.
Science knowledge only adds to the excitement, the mystery, and the awe of a flower.
Evidence is evidence. It's public. Everybody can look at the evidence and assess it, and eventually, if there's enough evidence, come to the same conclusion.
The Chloe Sanctuary for Parrots and Cockatoos, a nonprofit charity dedicated to the empowerment of captive parrots and public awareness.
Now imagine if you had been taken from your mother's womb when you were just a zygote and grown in an incubator and then raised by monkeys. You never even got to see any of your own kind. That's the nature of these breeders. That's what they do. So why do they do it? Well, you'll hear them tell you they're trying to save the species. Oh yeah, you could really save humanity by having it raised by chimpanzees. That would really do the work, wouldn't it? That would definitely keep the species alive. If you were trying to save humanity, you wouldn't do it by having babies raised in incubators and then raised by another species. You wouldn't even end up with real humans. That's what we have here. These are all birds that are functionally autistic. When I say functionally autistic, I mean they exhibit all the signs of autism because they were not raised properly. These are flock animals. They're not supposed to be isolated and sold and then used as little things that you can take out of the cage and go, isn't it pretty? Now, I've talked to a few breeders who really had their heart in it, but they didn't have their minds in it. None of them had ever studied biology. No one was into behavior science at all. They didn't know anything about reward training. They actually knew very little. What they did know was how to make money by growing these guys up, like one of these umbrellas. They go for about $1,000. So you buy a baby for $1,000, and then when it grows up and it becomes mature enough to have sexual urges, all of a sudden, the animal starts to exhibit territoriality. And people will tell me, well, my bird has suddenly, it's just gotten mean. No, I'm sorry. You were too stupid. You were a human being that only cared about your own needs. And because you only cared about your own needs, you didn't bother to learn about these guys, okay? If you aren't going to learn about them, if you're just going to wait until something goes wrong and then say, hey, my bird just he started biting. Well, I don't understand. We didn't change anything. Well, basically, you've turned your back on your bird by not bothering to learn. You didn't read the Manual of Parrot Behavior, which is a compendium of scientific information that would get you up to speed on what these guys are and the problems they have in captivity. You didn't read the Basava Manual for Citizen Birds, so you actually don't know the basics of health. And when you think your bird has diarrhea, and it actually has the renal shunt functioning, so it's bypassing its liver, and everything's going directly to the kidney, and it's going to die within a few days, oh well, I couldn't have imagined. Yeah, you could have imagined if you had read something, right? So yeah, I'm pretty upset with humanity in general. I gotta be honest with you. Now, if you're willing to learn and you want to protect your bird that you have, then I suggest you get on it, okay? Because the time to start learning is now. Do you agree with that, Peach? Now, if it seems like I'm yelling at you, the viewer, well, I may be. If you're supporting breeders, if you have the attitude that you can just figure everything out, you can just figure everything out because you're human and superior. Well, it's not true. I've heard people say, well, humans are more evolved than other animals. BS. Everybody's evolved the same amount. They've evolved differently, but we all came from the same source, okay? So we've all evolved the same amount. We've just evolved differently. So when you start thinking you're better because you're human, okay, you're wrong. All right? We're no better than them. We're no more evolved than any other animal. So I urge you to not buy from these breeders who are basically just the worst kind of capitalists. There may be some that think they're doing the right thing, but if they haven't studied and they haven't learned what they're doing and they aren't paying attention to actual biological science, then they're useless. Okay? Just because you want something to happen, I'm just sending out my thoughts and prayers that everything will be right. That won't fix it, okay? That doesn't fix it. Knowledge is what fixes it. And even if you have immense knowledge about these guys, you can still make mistakes, and those mistakes can be devastating. So learn two things. Learn everything you possibly can, all right? Learn everything you can. Do not buy from breeders, shun breeders, and shun bird stores. You don't want to go into bird stores anyway. If you go into a bird store, there's a good chance you're going to run into PDD. It's going to be in the feather dust or in the fecal dust, and the next thing you know, your bird's going to die of a horrible disease. And if you don't know what PDD is, it's time to start learning, okay? Get off your duff and start learning. I've been trying to get people to do this. I've been trying to get people to learn something and actually start studying what they have for quite a while. No matter what I say, they just go la-di-da-di-da down the road until things go bad. And then they call me up or they go onto our website or send an email and they go, oh, do you have some magic fairy dust to fix my situation? Yeah, I'll try to help, but it's pretty hard to help someone. That's like someone calling you up saying, oh, I'm running this nuclear plant over here and it looks like these rods are getting really hot. I'm getting all these warnings. What do I do? Well, I suggest first you learn a little nuclear science before you go in and start running a nuclear plant. You don't just go in there and kind of hope it's going to work. And behavior is very complex. Okay, you hear the tone of my voice. It's not necessarily aimed at you. It's aimed at the breeders who've convinced you that you can buy one of these birds and all of a sudden everything will just magically be great. I heard it at one store. It's closed. There was a place in Escondido, and I actually heard them tell a doctor, one of the people working there told the doctor and his wife, oh, this little umbrella cockatoo will always be this way. When I got done telling the doctor what the truth was, the doctor and his wife left. They did not buy a bird. Because the truth is, when these guys reach sexual maturity and you don't know what you're doing, they can be extremely dangerous. And it's not the problem of the bird. If you'd bothered to read the Basava manual, in the Basava manual it lists all the problems that these birds, especially cockatoos, have. And at the very end of the listing it says, the problem is not with the bird, the problem is with the people who are handling them. Okay? Don't buy from breeders. And if you aren't going to bother to learn something, don't expect me to sprinkle magic fairy dust and fix a problem for you, okay? We'll do what we can, but you need to know what you're doing. Their lives depend on it. Their happiness depends on it. Okay, end of my rant. We'll see you next time.